Welcome to Standards Michigan's weekly open office hour teleconference, where the doors open to discuss the week's work, but we also expand upon the underlying philosophy and strategy that guides that work. On the first Wednesday of the month, we are examining the monthly release of the U.S. Census Bureau report on construction spend in the education and healthcare industry. During the remaining weeks of the month, we will have an open agenda. We hope for interactive discussion on our priorities and approaches. Our streaming advocacy work is focused on strengthening the voice of the user interest, the end market stakeholder, or as we like to say, the user, owner, final fiduciary. In the education facilities industry, the end market stakeholder works to guarantee a safe and sustainable environment. This sets the stage for the opportunities the education industry provides for our nation's college students, the facilities our faculty need to carry out their research, as well as being the setting for healthcare delivery, athletic events, and ultimately a central element in state and local brand identity. We estimate that of the $300 billion the education industry spends on building, construction, operations and maintenance, energy and safety, over half is governed by the business and technical standards accredited by ANSI. We have explained on our Standards Michigan website that apart from the University of Michigan and what it started 20 years ago, most of the education facilities industry is not very active in the development of business and technical standards. Before I turn the call over to Mike, we would like to remind the facility constituencies in our industry, including the university-affiliated healthcare systems, to participate in the U.S. Census Department surveys. For more on this subject, I will turn the call over to Mike, but first I'd like to welcome our call-in guests. If you could just briefly state your name and your affiliation, that would be terrific. Who do we have on the call first? I believe Eileen Hill is with us.
Hi everyone. Yes, I have also my colleague Renee Hansher here, and I had sent some information earlier to Christine about some of our Commerce Department programs that potentially could fund some of some of the objectives that you have, including for funding folks to participate in standards development, that kind of thing. So we're just here. Renee has some interesting ideas about the MDCP program. I know you Christine, were looking at a NIST program. I can't remember the name of it. I just Googled it myself. I think we know the person who runs it, whose name is Eric Puskar. And if you would like, we can certainly connect you with him. But I agree, Christine. I'm not sure that that program will what you want to do is a good fit. No.
Thank you. And now I will turn the call over to Mike for the construction spend report. Mike?
Thanks. Let's get to it quickly. Keep in mind that the Commerce Department, and I think, I'm not sure if our guests are actually part of the Commerce Department. Is that right, Eileen? Renee, are you a division of the Commerce Department?
Yes, we are. We're in the International Trade Administration at the U.S. Department of Commerce in Washington, and the NIST group is also part of the Commerce Department, the National Institute of Standards and Technology. They're located in Gaithersburg. So we're two different parts of the Commerce Department, but we work very closely together on standards work. So yes, we are all, the folks I will be mentioning are all part of the Commerce Department.
Okay, thanks. So we go over this. We use a few numbers to steer by. We use these to determine whether we're successful or a failure. So this is one of them. It's our high-end number, frankly, but it's one that there's not a large public conversation on it. We felt that it was important for somebody to pay attention to this on a monthly basis. That's actually in the business of spending public money this way. So that you begin to see this. I'm going to go very quickly through this because we actually have several recordings where we go into more detail. So keep in mind that the Commerce Department looks back 60 days, and what we're seeing here on public construction is that we're finding that the educational construction is proceeding at a rate of 69.2. So by the end of the year, we'll say that our industry will have laid out $69.2 billion of new square footage. You'll see what that really means. a little farther down, but that's where we're at, and we're seeing that this number, your colleagues, there's actually, they put this little asterisk refers to the fact that they are making some adjustments, particularly in the area of renovations. They're counting renovations over $75,000. That data is coming from Dodge Reports, or Dodge. I think it's a private industry think tank that looks over these numbers in a micro level way. So we also say that since there are so many university-affiliated healthcare systems, large hospitals, sorry about that Prezi there. That's just something that Prezi does for us. We're looking at total construction, and so when you add, when you take the educational construction, one thing that you have to understand that number you saw over there is actually this number right here, with some adjustments made. So they actually, when you go and look at the footnote, you'll see that even though the numbers are off by a couple $100,000, you take that number and then that number and that number, and then you get the total construction of educational facilities is actually 88 billion, and for a healthcare system it's 41 billion. And if you look at this, you'll see that if you look at the only numbers that are higher than this, it turns out the public power utilities are a very large spend, and you'll also see the highway and street construction. So we consider those to be very large numbers, but they're not building construction, so to say. This is power lines and power plants, and this is roads. And up here is residential. Up here is residential. Residential, obviously, if you fly in airplanes, you can see that there's many more residential facilities. So, when we say that we're the largest residential construction, non-residential construction market in the U.S., what we mean to say is that we've discounted houses, which is obviously larger. We've discounted the utilities and the highways and the streets, and then after that, hospitals and education will spend more money. When you look down from an airplane in the future, you'll look at office and commercial space. This is retail, this is offices. They are lower. They spend less than we do. We do a lot of renovations, and so that's why I want to make sure I understand that this is a non-trivial number. It's a non-trivial number. So let's move on. And so that's basically the data. I like to put that in a. I think I have a little. Way I try. This is our marquee number, and so let's march through why that's important, and then we'll close this part of the call, and we'll get on to some of the other issues for Open Door. We try to steer by the change in gross domestic product, and this is one that we follow. We're actually rather at the moment our gross domestic products are not growing at a very large rate. It's I think it's a little bit. Depends on which party you're talking to or how they count. Each party does math differently. There is, so you can get the sense of where we are. We always say that innovation and a lot of attention by stakeholders are going to go into this larger growing economies. So we're very mindful of that. China's still half our size, but they are growing twice our rate. We get this data from a wonderful subscription from the Ross School of Business. This is an organization called IBISWorld, and they break out according to the, this is called the standard, what used to be called the Standard Industrial Code here. So I marched through some of these that are education industry related. And I'm not going to go through them. You'll find out actually that K-12 schools are actually have twice as much money as colleges and universities. Let's see, here's private schools. Here is community colleges, 60 billion. What else do we have here? We have the for-profit college institutions. So you add them all up, you get a number like this. So now if you look at the Prezi reports, what they do is they break out basically materials and labor. So they cut it in half, and they try to make a distinction between the soft labor cost, which is dominant, and all the other costs, which is equipment, buildings, energy, maintenance, carpeting, security, and all that. So what we found here is that we we've discovered that we've seen a 6% increase year over year since the last update. So there's not many industries in the United States that are growing, whose costs are going up 6% a year. So we often will use the number of 300 billion to get a size of that. I cut out some of the earlier presentations slides to make this shorter, but long story short, I believe this is something like that's our gross domestic product, and I want to make sure people understand where this $300 billion number goes. It's going to be going up. So it's a number that's collaborated by some of the trade magazines. So they use, what is this? This is 2014. What number do they use? They use 313 billion. What do they use? 286 billion. What else we gain here? Oh, okay. So when you get a sense of how large this is, so we're using we're using 300 billion. We have to understand that we're spending twice as much as General Electric makes. Let's say that again. General Electric is the world's largest. No, I think maybe they're number 3. The world's largest corporation. We spend twice as much as they bring in the door every year. So those numbers are collaborated. I'm not going to go into detail here, but I used the numbers you saw. We also go through some energy costs. We actually have some reasonably good data. You probably know that the energy space in the education industries is a very crowded space. Many people are in that, and so we have some fairly good data on it. And if you do some reverse engineering on these energy costs per student, you end up coming pretty darn close to the what do we get here? About 270. So we're looking at a certain percentage. This is the percent of GDP of the federal budget. Excuse me, of gross domestic product, because that also includes K-12 schools. Long story short, we still see this number 300 billion comes up. It's easily divisible, and so we try to restate why this is important. It's because we would be a Fortune 2.5% company. We would be larger than Chevron, but smaller than Exxon. And I think we're getting close to the bottom. Okay, so we also take so you just saw the macroeconomic view. We also look at it. This is a balance sheet. It's combined first cost, like a new construction project, and an operating cost. But I did it in the interest of time to combine them. So what we try to point out to everyone is that on our, we take an average, whatever an average building, take a $50 million building. Standards Advocacy has taken about 3.4% out of that. Now remember, those are just cost reduction opportunities. There's an error there. We can't make these people do this. And a lot of what we're trying to do is to pound it into the C-suite that they need to change the culture so that some of these code wins can be fully realized. Our economy is growing, but our ways of doing things don't seem to be growing proportionately. A lot of our industry shows what is generally understood as a sort of public sector ennui. That's a French word for they're really not interested. They don't have all the motivations for moving things along. So I think what I did here is I tried to, I know what this was. We're actually getting into really scary stuff like structural engineering, but I won't bother you on that one. That was from last month, I think. We try to tally these up. We call this a Hansen chart, and this, the C-suite wants to have one eye shot, a simplified view, and everybody knows who's really good at what they do. They're always very fearful of summarizing what they do, but this is what we have right now, and we're working on this one right here. These are not yet, but again, we're looking at very large numbers, and this is the way we summarize it. So I think we're awfully close to the end here. Yes, unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to change the special thanks to. We're working on. We've had a lot of obligations. So the last time I did this, I wanted to thank my colleagues in the structural engineering business. We're working on specifically the laboratory structural designs. It turns out that in most of the code universe that that there's a divergence between occupancy classes that are governed by fire safety and those that are driven by what the commercial purpose of the the space actually is. So it's a larger technological discussion, but we do need these codes and standards to move together. And these guys are helping us do that. In place billions, okay? We're not talking about small amounts of money. So when I say it takes 6 to 9 years, even 12 years to get things done, if you're moving money in $10 billion chunks, that's what it takes, because you've got to bring a lot of people along with you. And but we've been able to pull this off fairly well. So this is this way I try to end things comically, and then we just say have a good weekend. This is left over from when we used to do these on Fridays afternoon, and we think by doing the middle of the week we can get U.S. and also EU participants. I was on a call for most of the morning yesterday with colleagues doing what I do in electrical systems from Italy, Denmark, and the Netherlands. So we see ourselves as an organization that has to look at other nations.